Do you want to live a life of freedom and adventure? Are you wanting more than the daily grind? Me too. Welcome to the Emma Lovell Show, a place where we talk about living a life you love now. I'm your host, Emma Lovell, and my number one value is freedom. I've spent the last 14 years running a business and traveling the world, and now I take my husband and toddler along for the adventure too. It's possible, and I know you can create a life doing what you truly love as well. This podcast will inspire, motivate, and encourage you to go after your dreams, to create a life you love and to live it now, not wait for retirement or someday in the future. I'll be sharing episodes weekly about how I harmonize business, travel, and self-care. I'll also bring on incredible guests to share their journeys, the wins, the challenges, and how they're creating a life they love. Let's jump in and get dreaming. This is a space for you to manifest a life you love. I would like to acknowledge and recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of this place, now known as Australia. I am grateful for the continuing care of the land, waterways and skies where I work, live, listen, learn and play. From here on Yugambeh country and from wherever you are listening, I pay my respects to the elders past and present. Welcome to our podcast today. We are talking all things retreats, and I have with me the gorgeous Georgina. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Emma. Such a pleasure to be here.
Namaste. So do tell me, I would love to know, in your words, who are you? And tell us a bit about your business.
My name is Georgina, and I'm a yoga teacher living on the beautiful south coast of New South Wales. I didn't grow up here though. I grew up in the Snowy Mountains and spent most of my life there. But about 4 years ago, I felt the pull for a sea change, which I don't regret. It's been the best. And today, my work is quite diverse. I specialize in private yoga sessions. I host retreats both locally and internationally. I facilitate yoga teacher trainings and I teach classes at my cute little studio here in Tilba. But I think at its heart, my business is about creating spaces for people to reconnect to themselves, to slow down, and to experience real transformation.
I think that's like the definition of retreats, isn't it? It's
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and you do that beautifully. And when did you start your business and how has it evolved? Because you've been doing it a little while, right?
Yeah, it's been 18 years. And it was actually my mom that introduced me to yoga. I was not interested in yoga at all. In fact, I didn't like it at all. She dragged me along to some classes when I was a teenager in my early 20s, and I disliked them so much. I never went back. At the time, I was a ski coach. I was spending winters in the US and in the Australian mountains, so just endless winters. And it was a pretty fun sort of ski bum life. But my mum, with her incredible intuition, knew that yoga was a path that I needed to explore. She enrolled me in a yoga teacher training in Mexico, which I did on the way home after working a ski season in the US. And by the time I returned home from that training, she had set up a studio space for me in my hometown of Jindabyne. And I basically had to just step in and start teaching, the local people right away. And yeah, that was 18 years ago. And I just started teaching in that small mountain town. Well, it was quite big in the winters, but yeah, quite a small town. And over time, the business grew. It grew organically, and what began as simple weekly classes then expanded into workshops, weekend workshops, retreats, teacher trainings, and each stage has felt just like a natural evolution. Just been kind of following curiosity, growth, and just, it takes a willingness to take risks as well if you want to grow.
Yeah. And did you always think of it as a business, like from the start, like since you kind of fell into it? Did you think of it as a business then, or were you more like I'm a teacher or a trainer or?
Um, in the beginning, it was just something my mum made me do. And I was a bit disgruntled. I was like, well, I'm a ski coach. I don't want to be a yoga teacher. But I think what I did was in those early years, I got straight into continuing education
Mm.
and continuing my yoga training as a teacher. And that really inspired me. And then that inspired me to grow as a business.
Yeah. It's funny because I asked because I intended to start a business. And then it's funny when I look back when you are, approaching a 2 decade, like I'm 16 years. So you're like, when you're like, oh, it's been a long time. But I'm like, it didn't, it was a business, but I think there's a like working when you're small, when it's just yourself, like to think of yourself as a business. Sometimes people think of themselves as an individual or sole trader. I really like
Yes.
sole trader, freelancer. And then like now I'm like the way that I'm building out Rest and Receive and my other business Retreat Me Happy, and it is more like an organization and an empire, and it's like a full-on business, and it's like, oh wow, I thought that's what I wanted to do, and then I kind of yeah, to think of it like that. But when you're starting and you can't know where it's going. So I started Rest and Receive with a very different intention to the way I was working back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In the beginning, you just see yourself as just this individual who, yeah, it's not so much the formal business. It's just, trying to make ends meet by doing what you do.
And, so with retreats, when you go into that, like it really is a business activity and it really is a business structure because of all that's involved. So, when was your first retreat? And I mean, you've run quite a lot of retreats in Bali, but was your first retreat in Australia or overseas?
It was in Australia and it was just a weekend retreat. So I built a really strong studio community in Jindabyne and began running weekend workshops. And I got that idea because I used to go to weekend workshops. I used to travel to go to weekend workshops with my trainer, like my yoga teacher, my trainer who I was continuing my education through. And so she'd run these weekend workshops and they'd be in cool destinations. And I thought, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So I started doing these weekend workshops at my studio. So it wasn't, in fact, a retreat because it didn't provide, accommodation, but I provided lunch and then, sessions over a weekend. And then I started getting into finding some cool places close by to the local area where I would run weekend retreats where it would actually be, the accommodation, the food, the yoga, the whole experience. I never imagined that I would host an international retreat until Bali. I had been to Bali several times, but this one particular trip, I was there to heal after a really difficult period in my life. I just took myself over there for 2 weeks and I checked into this place down south of Bali in Bingen on the cliff top. And I remember when I walked in there, hadn't been to that area before, and I walked in there and that energy was undeniable. There was there's a reason why they call it the Island of Gods, because there is profound healing that can be found there. And yeah, I just fell in love with the place. And I remember thinking when I was there, I have to bring my students here. Like they have to experience this. Like this can't just be for me. Like I know that it would be really beautiful for them too. And at the time, the venue didn't offer retreat hire, but I asked anyway, and they said yes. And then I made what felt like I didn't even put a lot of thought into it. It was just like this immediate yes. I just, made what felt like this huge and terrifying financial decision because I had to pay for this venue. I had to pay upfront for the entire 7-night retreat, which was a huge outlay. I had no idea what I was doing. But I paid the money. I created a brochure. I put together a package. I had to do it rather quickly. And then I told my students, and within 24 hours, that retreat was sold out.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh, that was easy. Um, yeah, and that was 8 years ago. And I've run that retreat apart from COVID. I've run that retreat in that same place for the last 8 years. Every year it's sold out, and many guests return annually. It's almost like it's become this reunion.
Yeah.
We all go back each year, and each year, I'm a perfectionist in business and in life, which has its um, it has its downfalls sometimes, but each year I refine it and I elevate it and I deepen the experience. So each year it's just better and better. And seeing, the transformation over those 7 days, like the peace in people's faces when they leave, that's why I was like, I have to do this again and again and again. And it can't stop because, just in the last retreat in Bali, I had an 83-year-old mother and her 4 daughters come.
Oh my goodness.
And it was for a few of them, it was their first time overseas. And for most of them, it was their first time in Bali. And just seeing, they'd never been on a holiday together. And, just seeing their experience and how much it meant to them. It's why I continue to do it. And, yeah. And I also feel like before I got into yoga or before I got into ski coaching, I did study tourism, marketing, and management, and actually became top of the state. And that was kind of what I was thinking my career path was going to be.
Yeah.
And so the planning and the design side of retreats is something I actually love as much as the teaching. Like I actually love putting the whole package together, and I get as much satisfaction in that as I do in seeing everyone light up and have the whole experience come to life.
Yes, I'm with you. It is fun, but isn't it lovely how those skills have come full circle as well, like that experience that you have. And it's something that I see with retreat hosts, they sort of really isolate, like they'd only be thinking about the facilitation, or they're only worried about the organization, or like they sort of, concentrate on one bit where it's like you probably have multiple skills that you've gathered from your life
Yeah,
that when you put them together, and if you don't have that skill set or you don't have that knowledge, you can probably access it from somewhere. Like, and if you can't necessarily do the yoga facilitation, it's like that's why there's wonderful yoga teachers who can go on a retreat if that's what you need. It is
exactly.
interesting talking as well because I think yoga and retreats are just so beautifully aligned, and I think it makes sense, your journey, in that you had a captive audience, you had a dedicated community. They want to do then the next step with you. Like they want to go to the next step. They already trust you. They're already gonna go with you. Whereas I've dealt more in the business space, and the same reason why I got led to retreats is that you've got this community, you've got these people, you're doing this work, they want to do it in a different place. So you've already got this audience asking you for it in a way that they like, we want to go and do this thing with you. It's just that I think sometimes with the business side, people are like, they can't quite see how it works together. Whereas like they're like, of course I'm going to go to yoga retreat in Bali. Like, hello, yoga retreat Bali. Duh.
Yeah.
Which speaks to your next retreat, which is
Yes.
India,
I
and
know.
coming up very soon. So, like, did you ever think that you would run a retreat in India?
Never. Never. I've traveled to India several times for training purposes only, but I never ever considered hosting a retreat there. Bali feels accessible. India at the time felt vast, layered, and just really logistically complex. However, last year I was in India, I was in Rajasthan, and I had a really similar moment to what I experienced in Bali. There were some places that I visited in Rajasthan where I just felt like this deep inner knowing that I needed to bring people there. There was a few places I was there, and it was like I was imagining some of my students there. And I thought to myself, maybe I need to do this. Maybe I have to do this. I had no idea how, but I was like, maybe I have to do this. And India is the birthplace of yoga, right? So there's something incredibly powerful about practicing in the land of where it originated. The culture, the color, the depth, like it really changes you. I know that from being there. And it's funny because I didn't say anything. I didn't, mention anything to these particular students of mine, but the ones that I imagined being there are actually the ones that have booked in.
Yep.
And that's really cool. That really feels like confirmation that it's meant to be. So yeah, that's it's coming up in 5 weeks' time.
And I'd love to, like, I think one of the, from my understanding, what was one of the, I don't know, deciders for you was that there was a wonderful guide on your trip, who you connected with, who I had the pleasure of, we had met before and he was my guide in Delhi recently. But I do believe, he was kind of the selling point, I guess, of how it could be possible.
He was. And I said to him when I had that thought, I said to his name's Sanjeev, such a beautiful man, an amazing guide. Just felt so safe with him. I knew, like, being with him, I just felt like everything was going to be okay. There's just something about him, and he's so capable too. And so funny and so knowledgeable and so patriotic, and he just knows everything about India. He knows everything about Hinduism. Like, he's just extraordinary. And I said to him, if I do this, you need to be on this retreat. You need to come along to this retreat and be the guide on my retreat. Will you do that? And he was really honored. And then I put him in my brochure and introduced him in my brochure, which really touched his heart. And so everyone coming along, all the 14 people coming along in March get to experience Sanjeev, which is really beautiful.
I love that. And so, yeah, then we got to connect because Sanjeev works with the company that I partner with, Indus Bound, who is a boutique luxury company in India. So we serve India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan. And then we started to talk. And so, I think you said, like, and I do think it's probably the thing with India, it's the logistics, and people are just like, how do you start? Where do you even start? And I think there's a trust thing, and I think that's coming up a lot, is like the space and the trust. And so your clients trust you, so they went with you to a place they didn't know, and then now going to a place they even more out of what they know. And I've had the similar experience of, they're like, well, I trust you, and if you're going, then I'm going. And we're able to have the trust because we have this deep trust in our partner and in this supplier, which is Indus Bound, who know the country. And so how's that then been for you in terms of approaching that logistics?
Working with Indus Bound has been absolutely integral. Like in the past, well, with Bali, I've always done everything independently, but this retreat simply wouldn't have been possible that way, or it would have been a nightmare. What began as this vision has become a living, breathing reality because of Indus Bound, because of their care, their expertise, attention to detail. Organizing a journey like this in India is no small undertaking, and they've been so professional. And that has allowed me to, just like you say, fully trust the process completely. Like, I just have full trust. And that is so, that just feels so good. And, it just takes a huge load off my nervous system going over there, wondering how it's going to evolve. And they haven't just organized all the logistics, they've helped craft an experience that will stay with me and everyone that comes along for a lifetime. And it takes a village to bring something like this into the world. And I couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah. And it's something
And you.
well, so yeah, so the way that I work with Indus Bound is so obviously I've run my own retreats, but what we found is that even for them, retreats are a different kettle of fish. So, they're used to doing small group tours. Sometimes we have they partner with tour companies, but it's this, and I did a podcast episode on it. A retreat is not a tour. And so in doing the itinerary and crafting the itinerary, what I've been working with Indusbound on is it's like, and particularly my partner Pankaj, it's that it's you need space, and we can't have it like a tour format. And then the destinations, which obviously you got to experience, some of these destinations, some of these locations, and unlike where you went in Bali, like, and though they have them in India, where it's more of a facility that is for retreats, we actually use properties that are not necessarily retreat properties. So they're hotels and just like venues or private villas or forts, like they're places that they're set up in a different way. So then it's like, okay, how do we marry this of having this culture, this accommodation, but making sure there's the space, literally the space, because you've got to do yoga, or for me, I've got to do workshops that help the host. And so that's where I come in, as giving one, the Australian perspective of how we do business and how we work, speaking to this market, but also to being a retreat host. And then that also impacts how we price it and how we make that work, because it has to work for you, the host, um, as well as the end consumer.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's, I think, where something it was quite different to how that you'd worked it before. It's a different structure.
Yeah. And you need that middleman, which
Yeah,
has been Indusbound. It's integral to have that.
yeah. And what's been the most surprising? Like, obviously, we're going to have to do another episode to talk about how it was going there. Like, and I think it's one thing I'll say to you, and I always say to any host, and from your own, it's like, expect the unexpected. And that's why we build in some space. And India operates on its own time zone, which is
Sure
the
does.
Indian Standard Time, which means any 1 to 5 hours
Yeah, yeah.
you know. So, there's that. But like, so obviously you've got to go and deliver it, and you'll have your own reflection process. But like, what so far has kind of, yeah, I guess, surprised you or been different or about this experience?
I think how possible it is, honestly. Um, a year ago, I wouldn't have thought this was possible. It has been a huge logistical undertaking. Um, running a retreat in India, there's higher risks, there's bigger financial commitments, there's more moving parts. I also doubted whether people would want to even travel to India,
Yeah.
but I was wrong. And exactly like you mentioned before, people do want to experience India. They just don't want to do it alone. They want to be with someone that they trust. And having a curated retreat container makes it accessible and safe for them. There's a few people coming along that would never, ever, ever go on their own, but it's always been their dream to go. So when they saw that I was doing this, they were just 100% all in. No
How
questions
beautiful that
asked.
we get to be the bridge. And I
Yeah.
think also that I just feel so honored. Like, my group was there like the last time, and when we said, I went around and said, why did you want to come? And, it was, yeah, that I'd wanted to go for a long time, and then you were going, so I was happy to go. And you're just like, it's an honor. And it is important then that you're the host, because sometimes it's that thing of like, the business isn't about me. It's not about me. And I say it's not about you, but it also is about you. And it's like, they are going because you created this, and they're going because you have made this, and it's because you've put your energy into it. And so you, as the host, you do matter, and it is
Mm.
important.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And you've got to hold that space. And it was something we talked about before a little bit, off air, which was about, so you've experienced this before, and obviously going to another level this time, of what it takes to not only prepare, like you've said, a lot of logistics, there's operational side of it, and even though you enjoy it, there's moving parts, but then you've got to deliver it. And then something that I've now included in my course, and I think it's really important for me and made my own process, is integration. and processing what you've experienced. So how do you do that for yourself?
With the Bali retreats in the past, I've always added on extra days at where I'm staying at the end of the retreat. So everyone will go home. And although some of them decide to stay, but most of them go home. And I need that time to just be alone, to not communicate. Most of the time, I guess because it's a yoga retreat and I'm physically using my body much more than I would, just teaching day-to-day classes. Physically, I feel quite wrecked at the end. I know that yoga is, it does make you feel amazing, but as a teacher, it's different. It's different as a teacher. You're not in the practice like the students are in the practice. So my body can feel quite exhausted and wrecked at the end. So I do need those few days afterwards to not socialize because I've been like talking for like 7 days straight. I'm actually an introvert at heart, so being extroverted on retreat is challenging for me. So when the retreat's over, I just have to shut down. I need to be alone. I need to nourish myself with massages, eat good, healthy food, let my body rest, sleep in. And that's really, really important. There's a lot that goes on, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And often you can be really in your head afterwards thinking about what you could have done better, what might have gone wrong, how you could have fixed it, like all that. So it's really important to have that time for yourself afterwards.
Yeah, and you're holding just so much. So it's like, yes, you're not physically sometimes doing the yoga if you were guiding it or whatever. Like I think you're holding all
Energy.
within your body, and then I have this thing where I'm like, it's like, oh, I'm no longer responsible. Like I
Yes.
don't have to be the responsible one anymore. Like, which is why it's important for me, like a 5-year-old, so like to not then have to go straight home and then be responsible again. It's like you said, to sleep in, just like because even I don't know, I make my mornings pretty loosey goosey on the retreats, but you still, you have to get up and
Be,
and
yeah,
be with
be
people,
present. And
and
yeah.
it does take energy, and it's a beautiful energy, but it is a lot of giving. And what do you though also, like for me, I keep asking my host this. I'm like, because I'm like, you have to want to do this because you are going to, it is energy, it is money, it is energy, it is time, it's a commitment. So why do you want to do it? Because you need to get something out of it, which is not just financial. And for me, I receive so much. Like, what do you receive as a host from running retreats?
Just like I mentioned, the transformation and the joy that my students receive in that experience. Like, you know, you just see it on their faces and you just know that for some it's been the best week of their life. And that just like, it makes me want to cry. It just touches my heart so
Mm.
much. And the ones that keep coming back and back and back. And there's beautiful bonding experiences, like I mentioned with the mother and her daughters. I also have a father that brings his two daughters to the Bali retreats, and he's actually coming to the India retreat and bringing one of his daughters. And all those, I have best friends that come along together. I have couples that come along together, and then all people that meet each other there and then form relationships for life through meeting in Bali on a retreat. And there's so much satisfaction that comes from that. Like I love that. I receive so much from that.
Yeah, it is. It's a, like, I would say like vicarious joy, but like it is to witness that and to see, you can literally see the shift.
You
Um,
can.
but you said before as well, like that each time you've made it better, or each time, like you obviously grow in between. Because some people have asked me, they're like, if you're doing the same thing every year, or so I always go different places, but do the same. I might do the same it's called the same thing, the same structure. And they're like, oh, will I still get benefit if I come another time? And you're like, yeah, because you're not the same and I'm not the
No,
same.
no,
And
no.
and you're going to answer even if it's the same question or whatever, the same movement, it's going to be different. You're going to respond to it differently. So I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to be different.
Yeah. Depending it, yeah, and you're at a different stage in your life, so you'll be receiving something different.
And there's always, even if four or five people are the same, then the other people have got, but they're all have different energy anyway. And I have had a negative experience of someone coming the second time of just where they're at and in their approach to it. Um, in just but that's their approach to it. That's not, they're kind of like, oh, I've got this kind of thing. And it's like,
Mm.
well, you could be open to like what's going to come. That's what I would invite.
Mm.
But such a testament to you that they want to keep coming back and then bringing people. I love that. Just makes me smile so much.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
so for this retreat, you have a co-host. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but this time you have a co-host, and we had a session together. So what's it been like for you having that early strategic support as well for the two of you?
Well, Emma, your support's been extraordinary. Like, um, with my Bali retreats, I largely followed intuition and I just winged it. I totally winged it. Like
Done very well.
everything, nothing was like typed out. Everything was just on like scribble on a piece of paper, like how much people owed, how much people paid. Like it was just in pencil, tick, tick, here, there. Um, and it worked. Like it worked. But you've helped me and my co-host bring structure and like a professional aspect behind the scenes to it all. Like you've introduced me to spreadsheets. I'd never even when you first showed me that spreadsheet, I was like, I
Always.
don't know what this means. Like I'd never even heard the word profit margins before. Like, you've brought some financial clarity to it all. And the math side of things, I always just avoided. Um, but those small strategic refinements that you've helped with have made a significant difference. And it's given me confidence, not just in the like the whole experience myself, but in the sustainability of it as a business, like we mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's to you.
It's really funny. I just want to play that for a few people, like, who know me, because they're like, Emma, spreadsheets, like you, this, like, because for me, I feel like I wing it too, but I've been on that experience of winging it. And funnily enough, for me, for some reason, retreats made it make sense. And I don't know why, like, but maybe because there's so many moving parts, it did get to that point where it was like, I need that organization and process and for myself. But I've also done, and I have it in my course, the honest financial planning. And it's a phone note. And I'm like, worst comes to worst, just at least write it down somewhere. Like just at least have it down on a piece of paper. At least you knew the people were ticking. Like there were people like, oh, I might have cost me 10,000. It might have cost me, I don't know. Like I just liked that thing, so I bought it. So even having a phone note, it's something where it's documented, but it just makes it easier for you. And the more that I do it, the more then sometimes I realize there's more things we need. Um, but it's also why for me, so if something goes wrong, which is something that we covered
Mm.
together as well, it's just that I touch wood, have had a few like situations, but we are dealing with international travel and
Mm-hmm.
big money and people's health and all these sorts of things that the risks are high. And so for me, it's just like when it got to that, you're like, we do have to expect the unexpected and just prepare yourself. And then you have that confidence. Then you
Mm.
can enjoy and then you can have the like of if something goes wrong, well, I can handle it.
Mm. Yeah.
because it's documented and because I've written it down. And
Mm.
yeah, it's for your peace. And I come back to the host. Like I really want I want your guests to have the best time. I really do. And I know they are. Like I can vision them and I can see that those ones. And I totally know why you manifested those people I write sales pages with a couple people in mind. It's like, I'm calling you in. But, you have to be able to do this. And if you burn out or if it all falls apart for you, then there's nothing for them. They
No.
can't ever have retreats again because Georgina's not okay. Like,
And you don't want that situation on retreat either.
no, no, we want, and it just makes me so sad because I do hear these stories, and I'm sure you've seen it too, of people, them not even starting or them losing a lot of money or just being so over it because it's all just too hard basket. And then who suffers? Either the people who are actually already on the retreat, let alone the host, but also any future people that don't get to
Mm.
have this opportunity experience. And I can just see all these people getting the beautiful gift of your service because you're taken care of as well.
Mm. Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like we've covered so much. For others who are thinking about running a retreat, domestically or overseas, like what would your top tips be from your many years of experience?
I know it's scary, but take the risk.
Hmm.
Yes, the upfront investment is scary. With this India trip, I did not, because of Indusbound, I did not have to pay like the full lump sum upfront, which has been amazing, which has been, a huge, um, it's contributed hugely to the stress of it all, to not have to do that, the not stress of it all. But and to accept that there's going to be unknowns. But if you think about the people, like we mentioned, that are going to miss out on an experience of a lifetime because you were too afraid to go for it, it's just really sad. And I think from my experience with this India retreat and the planning with that, don't do it alone.
Hmm.
Partnering with an experienced third party provider like Indusbound, if you're doing India or South Asia, it's invaluable. Like it reduces the stress, it protects you legally, financially, and allows you to focus on what you do best, which is holding the space and leading the transformation.
Yeah.
Um, and that, yeah, I highly recommend that. I really do. And if you are, you know, if you're really passionate about what you do and you love what you do, it will all come together. It really will. The right people will come along. And if you feel the calling strongly enough, that's usually your answer.
And that's where it started for you, like both times that you've shared is like that intention. I think there was a demand like for retreats overall, but there was that intention and your intention was so strong. And when you can visualize it and picture it so strong, it's such an integral piece to it because if you're just doing it because, and if you're doing it only because people want it, not going to work. And if you're doing it only because you think you're going to make moolah, not going to work. And if you think just, oh, I'll just do it because I can, like, I think that you going back to that intention is that anytime it is hard or, like stressful or risky or whatever, because whenever we're doing undertaking that you care about, but your intention, like you just coming back to that vision of
Mm.
knowing what they're going to get to, like it saves me as well. I have to have that. And if I don't, um, you can't go through with it.
No, you can't. You can't sleep at night. No.
No, and I think it's what I want to see out. I want to see more beautiful, heart-led, intentional leaders holding this beautiful space for people. Like it's such a gift, and I'm so glad that you're doing it. And I
Oh,
can't wait. I'm just going to be traveling vicariously. I can't wait to hear all about it. I'm just going to be there like hovering. So like must be setting my energy and just like trying not to check in too much.
Watching my Instagram stories.
Yes, please. Yes, beautiful content. So speaking of Georgina, how can we connect with you and hopefully get to do this again and people might want to come, but how can they connect with you? How can we follow the journey?
I have a website. It's georginaeveyoga.com. And on there, it's got all my social media links. But my Instagram is Georgina Eve Yoga. And so is my Facebook. So, yeah, pretty simple, just Georgina Eve Yoga. And yeah, I do, as you would know, it's challenging when you're facilitating a retreat to stay on top of social media. Like it's almost like this stressful thing you've got to quickly fit in before you go to bed is post a couple of stories because you know that everyone wants to see what's happening, what's they want updates. So I try my best to stay on top of that. I feel like it is an important part of the work while on retreat because a lot of people are waiting to see. So yeah, I do on my Instagram and Facebook stories always more so Instagram.
Yeah.
Stay on top of that during the retreats and do little updates when I can.
It's a gift for the attendees as well, but also like people, I think we finished our retreat last time and someone said to me, they're like, thanks for taking me on your retreat. And I was like, oh, so nice. They really felt like they were there. And you're sitting there going, I didn't share this and I didn't share that. And I had so much more because you've done a whole day full of amazing stuff and you've just got to be like, just pop up a few things that, yes, they can, and then to receive that message though, to go that, oh, they are watching and they do want to be part of it. And they're, for my guests, then they don't have to worry about sharing as much either because you're doing it. And then it is nice when you get to look back on it as well and
It
go,
is,
goodness, look what we did.
yeah,
Look what I did. You're amazing, Georgina. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
right.
I'm so excited for you. And I can't wait for the day that we get to go and do something somewhere in the world together.
I
So
know, won't that be special? And yeah, thanks again, Emma. I could not have pulled this off without you. So thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you for listening, lovely one. I hope this has inspired you to dream big and start creating a life you love today. If you love what you're hearing, don't forget to follow and rate on Spotify and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. It helps other awesome people to find this podcast and get motivated and inspired as well. Want to stay connected? Come and join the Live a Life You Love group on Facebook or connect with me on Instagram, emmalovell.au. The same as my website, but all the details are in the show notes, lovely. I'll see you next episode for more inspiration, motivation, and freedom seeking. Now go out there and live a life you love.